Good morning. This is a Clarion Voice, and today we're going to find out where did the morality go. We're going to find out. Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome to October. It's October 3rd here at our hub studios in Atascadero. This is Mark Sopowitz with the Clarion Voice, along with Mike Donaldson and our production crew, Debbie and Selena, who are doing the camera work and all that good stuff to make us look good, I hope. In any case, today we're going to be talking about where did our morality go? I realize that this has been going on for thousands of years, that morality is just, to me, it's taken a turn for the worst. I mean, it just seems to be more evident to me that people are deciding what to do, when to do it, and it doesn't matter. There's so many different issues regarding that. So, anyways, that's what we're going to start off with. So, Mr. Donaldson, sir, how are you?
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. What is your take on the morality issue and where it went?
All great societies, Romans, Greeks, when they have lost their place in the world as being great because they turn into they start bending the image of a man and woman so that everything's the same. They start doing what they want, how they want, like you're saying. I mean, it just seems like everything just goes out the window, right? And then they fall. It's like you can say the world, but you know, you, here in America, we are taking that kind of place where we're following the Roman Empire to fail, to fall, because this is what happened to them. It was just degradation. It was, immorality. I mean, we're going to have to first maybe define morality, or what we consider as moral, because it's relative depending upon who's listening.
Well, right. I mean, morality in its basic definition is the difference between right and wrong.
Okay, and so um, to a man it's sin. To one man it's sin. To one man it's not.
Yeah, that's basically what it's boiled down to. It's what I remember as situational ethics, because whatever the situation happens to be, people, human beings, decide what's right and what's wrong, and everything has just been turned on its head. I
Right?
mean, as far as that goes, because and the basic, to me, people are not following the fact that the Bible is the ultimate source of where you should get your morality. That's my opinion, but people just go against it. I mean, it goes back to in recent times to the 50s when Hugh Hefner, who was the publisher of Playboy, said, "If it feels good, do it." And that's essentially what we've been doing is whatever we think is right.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could go back to Kinsey
oh,
even
okay,
before
yeah,
him. I doing a little studying, and after seeing a meme, because I did a wedding this weekend, officiated a wedding, and some friends of mine, and it was interesting to find out that marriage in the beginning, that was like Genesis 3. You can start seeing a
mhm.
man and a woman. Oops, sorry. A man and a woman shouldn't be, man should not be alone, blah, 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 right? Okay. But if you look in the Jewish culture, the Hebrew culture, they
Mhm.
kept to themselves for the most part. They weren't trying to push their morality of being monogamous, right, to anybody else. Matter of fact, they weren't all that monogamous themselves. They practiced, like look at Solomon, he was not monogamous.
No, that's for sure.
Look at David, he blew it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, so it wasn't like a big practice, right? There is an atheist, last name Holland, who noted that in the ancients, is the way he described it, ancient civilizations, what happened was Christianity. Because after Jesus was crucified, uh, and then they were totally scattered, right? It says throughout the region. And what happened was they started teaching on monogamy, but everybody heard it. The Romans heard it, the Greeks heard it, and they started practicing monogamy after. So he was Christian, and he, being an atheist, he says he couldn't deny it. He was looking at the history. He was following the history,
Right.
and so God had a big hand in the world, to become a monogamous world, but people, and I would say traumas, it could be any number of reasons where they decide they want to just do something a different way. And I think, perversion and calling it science, like what Kenzie was doing,
Hmm.
um, uh, was the beginning of the end.
Well, I mean, I think you bring up marriage. I mean, we have same-sex unions, which are becoming more acceptable. I read online today, even the Pope
Yes,
is saying that he's
read
not
that.
so much against it as he used to be.
Yeah, like they're going to start blessing same-sex unions.
Yeah, because they were doing that in Germany. I think there was a archbishop in
Yeah,
Germany that did that. So
because the Cardinals were pressuring him. I mean, what is this? Are you the Pope or not? Are you
right.
the head of the church or not? I mean, would Jesus be like that? Well, there's a lot of people talking about doing it this way.
No,
You know what
he
I'm
wouldn't
saying?
be. I mean,
You know?
but you see that the morality has been turned on its head because things that used to be not acceptable are now acceptable.
Well, they're
It's
saying it is. That doesn't mean it should be.
well,
Right?
even if you criticize, whatever it happens to be. I have a friend whose daughter lives in Templeton. She has
Mhm.
children that go to the public schools
School.
there, and so about a couple of months ago, she was attending a school board meeting, and that one of the subjects that came up was about the teaching of gender identification or something like that
Right.
in the schools.
Mhm.
And so I don't think she got up to speak, but there were people that were criticizing that because basically it didn't have any place in the schools. And then if they did that, then people would, harass them because they were going against, what people think is acceptable now, which is, teaching gender identification or,
Yeah. They, what are they? They're trying to make it acceptable.
well,
They,
that's it.
and
They're
they,
trying to make it acceptable.
yeah. It's the science is settled. I mean, I really hate that term. I've heard it a lot, since 2008.
Right.
And it's always about the science is settled and this is what the science says. Well, that's totally opposite of what science means. Science means discovery. So it's a constant understanding. We know things about cancer. We know things about the cells. We know things about atoms. We know things about energy today that we didn't know about So if
Right.
the science was settled back when an apple fell on Newton's head and just stopped there, I don't think so.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there is no settled science. I'm sorry. In the first place.
Right.
Okay.
I
So they just by continuing to say it, that's another story if you want to talk about
well,
Marxism,
it's
because it's like if you keep saying this, it's gonna eventually be settled that in their mind. If you just kind of keep saying a lie enough, it's going to be believed as the truth.
that's basically what's happening because that's exactly what's happening because they're perpetrating this lie, as far as I'm concerned about the, gender identification and whatever. I mean, I work for a company
Careful.
who is who accepts, different, you know, different orientations, different, people or something like that. I mean, I work with several people that are in, and I love them just as God would love them. I accept them. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean that I have to,
You have
uh,
to, yeah.
no, yeah. I mean, I can't separate myself from that. You have to treat them as a human being.
And they should do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they don't have to believe what you believe, but you should be treated with respect. And that's what's not happening.
No, you're right because people feel that Christianity or Bible toting people or whatever are like the outcasts. We're totally, what the heck are you saying? I mean, because
If Christianity didn't have any impact on the world, then tell me what year it is without telling me that Christ didn't have an impact. If the year is 2023, it's because it's 2023 AD.
yeah, I mean,
And before that was BC, before Christ. So
right.
he split time in two. So don't tell me he didn't have an impact on society. Don't tell me that Christianity is on the waning side of things. I really don't believe that. I think that it just has to be an awakening. There's got to be a moment of awakening,
Oh, definitely.
and it's going to come to. There's something happening. I mean, I'm seeing more and more people talking about it's specifically detransitioning. From being trans and talking about the total regret. I should have done this when I was 14, when I was 16.
Hmm.
Now I'll never have children. And like now the amount of girls that age between 14 and 16 that have those feelings of who am I,
Hmm.
gender dysphoria.
Hmm.
They say it's huge.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
you take they feel awkward, and it's all the, you know, it's getting used to, and God bless them, but they've got a lot of hormones that are, a lot of things that are changing every month. It's changing in them, and so they're trying to get used to this change every month, and it's not easy to be a girl.
I
Said a
know,
guy.
or a guy for that matter. I mean, but it's just, it's just bothers me to the point where, okay, I want to be accepting of people no matter what their
Yes.
status in life is. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we as believers have to lead the way and show the example of what it is to live a moral life according to the what the Bible states.
Mhm.
We don't have to necessarily be legalistic about it, but we have to be consistent and we have to, show, what it's like, and what have you. But the problem is that people that whatever the subject is, whether it's sexual orientation or whatever it happens to be, I feel that they're forcing it on others.
Well, yeah. Okay. If let's go back to the classroom. I just saw this whole thing where this guy says, "Look, you want to teach this stuff 3 days a week. 3 days a week. All right. You've got them 5. So the majority, 3 days a week, you want to talk about gender
Hmm.
and blah, blah, blah. Are they already understanding? Can they spell? Can they do math? I mean, are these other things to the point where you have the time to go do this other stuff anyway? I mean, that's not even the purpose of the why they're in school. You're supposed to prepare them for the world, outside world.
Sure.
And and talking about gender is not going to prepare them for the outside world. It's grooming them for a
Mm.
specific mentality in the outside world. I mean, teach. They got to be proficient in all these things. You got to be.
But the schools are lacking in that regard as far as teaching the basics of how to succeed
Yeah.
because their focus is more on what is popular or
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
the situation happens to be,
Yeah.
and you sort of get on a bandwagon and you promote that, and then everybody, the moment you go against it, it's like you're cast as a pariah. You're told,
Yeah.
what the heck are you doing? Why are you against us? I mean, because some people feel that being a believer is not
Well,
is more legalistic. I mean, rather than not.
yeah. Think about, whatever you are. You could be, you know, culturally, you know. I remember when I was growing up, there's a lot of Polish jokes, there was a lot of Polak jokes, right?
Hmm.
And, you know, they were putting down a specific group of people, you know. They didn't go crying in the corner and, go to the legislature and, make, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And every group, I don't care which one you want to point to, and more white than anything groups. We're talking, there's the Irish. They had a bunch of jokes about that.
Hmm.
Bottom line is that, like South Park, no group is safe.
Right.
you know,
That's
they
true.
they go after every group. Okay,
Yeah.
and for comedy's sake. But honestly, no one's really going after them. They're just not patting them on the head, saying everything you do is just fine with me. That's all we're doing. All we're doing is saying, well, that's different. I mean, I was thinking just the other day of how people talk, and and there's terminology and words and things that I don't even get now. I've got to have to study. You know, you know, all of a sudden I've got to Google it. What does that mean? When they say a certain phrase, and it was probably the same thing when I was growing up. It's groovy. What does that mean? I don't know. Everybody's saying it, so it's groovy.
See, I think that that's the point. If somebody says it's acceptable and people get on the bandwagon,
Right,
then it becomes acceptable.
right.
And that's what's happening with all sorts of different, subjects. I mean, and then of course there are people that are not exactly shining examples of morality because they lie, they cheat, what have you. I mean, and all of this is coming out of the woodwork. It's not like it didn't happen before. It's happened all through time. But now all of a sudden
It
it's
has to be acceptable. That's what gets me. It has to be. I mean, I remember the day when they just wanted to have, same-sex marriage, you know. This is, well, why do you need a certificate? Can't you just, what I mean, be married and, it's not a no, but we want to be accepted exactly the same. Okay. And there were people saying, this is back, what was it, the 60s,
Mhm.
70s? People were saying that's a slippery slope. What do you mean? So, it's just going to get worse. And that's what we've seen. It's like, it seems like every decade, there's some huge push farther down this rabbit hole of all we want to do is just love each other.
Yeah, I know. It's just,
And now where are we at? You know, we got people, what wanting, we get males dressing up like women that want to twerk in front of children. What is up with that?
you see, and the problem is that the more we criticize or the more we say, well, then we're cast out, as though, or
You're just old.
what?
You're just old. I, like I said, I did this wedding and they were amazed, and they going, because Kim mentions, she goes, yeah, we've been married like 45 years. They're going, wow.
Uh-huh.
These kids are 30 years old or so,
Right.
I say kids, they're adults, but they're like, wow.
You don't hear that anymore because
That's why they were just totally amazed.
I mean, I was married for almost 40 years.
Yeah, but they don't plan. Yeah, but they don't plan for that. I mean, it's in their mind they're thinking, well, yeah, I can probably get 20, a good 15, 20 years out of this one. That's what I think. I don't think they actually believe that they're going to have a lasting marriage, and so they don't.
Right.
It used to be the norm.
It bugs the heck out of me because to answer the question that we started with, morality has just gone
out the window.
Yeah, it's gone out the window, and it's become everything has become acceptable. I mean, everything under the sun has become acceptable. It doesn't matter what it is.
Well,
and that's, I'm sorry, I can't.
Until God says it's acceptable, I don't think it's acceptable.
Well, people don't agree with that.
Yeah, you just gotta,
well, if you put that argument in discussing whatever it is that is involved here, if you say, well, it isn't acceptable until God accepts it, then they're going to look at you and say, what do you mean? You see, this goes back to the point of when the Israelites were in they had just escaped from Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided, that they couldn't wait for Moses to come back from the mountain. So they built their own golden calf, their own idol or whatever. Right. What it boils down to is disobedience. That's what they were doing. They were disobedience, and they thought that they could do things on their own.
Well, okay. Now let's talk like the Pope. What just happened with the Pope, right? All these people were coming to Aaron. You got to do something. He ain't coming back. He went up in the mountain. We're never going to see him again. We got to worship something.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to do it when the boss was around, Moses, but now that the boss, the cat's away, let's, and they built the calf, right? To replace. So what is society replacing today in place of God? You know what I'm saying? That's what I think is going on.
Yeah, they're putting everything else in place of God,
right?
Because they feel, okay, it's acceptable, to do this or that, whatever it happens to be. I'm not bad-mouthing that. I mean, it's just that I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean that I have to treat people any less or make judgment, because
Absolutely not.
It's not my position to judge people. It's God's.
Yeah. And I look back at the moral majority.
Oh, I remember. That's right. The moral majority.
And that was what? That was the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Late 60s. And so they formed that little group there. I don't remember the guy's name. I just lost my gosh. It's lost to me. But anyway, he started the moral majority, and that can be a problem. Then you got to live up to your own standard.
Right.
I'd rather be a gracious minority. Now, grace doesn't mean we're going to let you do whatever you want to. We're just going to give grace. I want to have more mercy. God has called so many of these people that are lost in this dysphoria thing. He's called them. They are his alone. And yet they just haven't been woken. They think they're woke, but they haven't wakened enough to understand what God's trying to say to them.
Right.
And when they do wake up, and like I said, there's some have detransitioned, they're telling people, whoa, God has made you wonderfully just the way he made you. Don't take that for granted.
But
don't
they do.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the love now. Let's talk about the way to approach that. To love people right into the place of God's design
Mhm.
for them, and how wonderful it can be. It's when you're lost
Mhm.
without the leadership of the Lord, right? Like I said, when Moses was gone, it was like, oh, he just we're going crazy here. We don't have Moses to tell us what to do, And we're not trying to say follow one person. We're saying follow the only person, the creator.
Right. I agree. Well, I don't know if we answered the question as to where morality went, but I know that I'm sure
We
that
had
this
fun trying.
yeah, we this issue is going to go until until the Lord comes back. Okay, and so
That may be tomorrow
yeah,
at this rate. Who knows?
right.
You don't know the time.
No, we don't. That's true, and just remember, we're not trying to denigrate
Judge.
anybody or badmouth them or whatever. We want to love them into the kingdom. There's a lot of things that have been accepted, that I don't agree with, but it doesn't mean that I have to uh, downgrade a person because of that. It's their choice. But as Mike said, God chose them to be put in his image. And until they awaken to that, they're going to decide how they're going to conduct their lives. I am not in a position to say you're right or wrong, but I am in a position to love them into the kingdom.
Amen.
And I think that's just the point. Once they see what's in the kingdom and how accepted they really are by God, hopefully they'll change their minds. We'll see. I don't know. But if you have any, opinions on this, please send them to clarionvoice.com or Clarion Voice at
Respond to this video.
what's that?
They can always respond to the video.
Yes. Or
Comment and share.
yes, you can like the video and share it with somebody and say, well, they don't know what they're talking about. Or else you can agree with us. That's up to you. And then if you want to be notified about any future videos, then please hit the bell. And I certainly hope that you've been enlightened by our conversation, and it stirred up some feelings about where morality has gone. So anyways, we hope that you'll enjoy your week. And this is Mark Sobowitz, along with Mike Donaldson, for a Clarion Voice.